now for the
All right.
applications. So
Nice.
pretty good. Okay, I'm just
Yeah,
gonna.
I think you have to walk me through the Light client and Basecoin at some point next week or tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's been a lot of stuff happening, and I haven't followed it that closely, I think.
Is there anything that I saw? Oh, I can see. That's weird. Um, can you still see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I didn't have a chance to fully catch up. Like, is there anything that you need me to talk about? I saw that. Okay, so I'm just gonna look at the agenda here.
No, so do you want to talk about like Basecoin, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, uh, yeah, actually, maybe that's at so like that everyone can have a small chat about what they're working on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can absolutely give a quick rundown of the stuff I've been working on and help answer any questions. So, um, and will be is if I go to the YouTube channel, will we see the like where do we see the comments streaming in?
Yeah, I think it has to be the YouTube channel. It's kind of shitty.
But that's fine. I just don't know where it is. So,
I wish the comments would live stream into our chat here. It'd be so much easier.
yeah. Okay, so um, okay, so I see yesterday's. I see the last hangout. Do we have? Is there where? Can you post the YouTube channel?
Yes,
Great.
they're live. Come join us for second developer chat.
Thanks.
Send it now. There. Yeah, so I posted in the Cosmos channel.
Yeah, I see it.
And I'll also send out something over Twitter. Let's do it too.
Great. Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, Tendermint, Cosmos. Not here, not here, not here. Share now. There we go. Now the question is, where's Bucky?
Okay, there's 20
Oh
people.
shit, we have 21 viewers actually.
Okay. Maybe let's just start this. I guess is Bucky going to be coming here?
Yes, so let's start. So, hello guys. This is our second developer chat for Tendermint and Cosmos. Yeah, so Ethan will join us in a minute. I think he just had to take a short break. He's been working all day. Right, so let's start with introductions. So, Rigel, do you want to start?
Okay, so I'm Roger Rosansky. I've been working with the Cosmos team for several months now. And my side is predominantly on the like blockchain app development side. So I've been working with another one of our team members, Ethan Fry, to kind of get all the pieces together. So it's going to be a little bit easier for everybody to build their own blockchain apps and just making sure that all the interfaces are smooth. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been doing. Yeah, I guess we'll get into it more later.
Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, if you have questions, just ask them even randomly now. I have echo, right? Right, let me check that. Microphone.
Let's use this. Is this better?
Kind of sounds more echoey.
Damn it. Okay, then back to the original.
What about now? Kind of. Yeah, so introductions from my side. So I'm Adrian. I'm predominantly working on Ethermint and the Rust language bindings, and a bit on our enterprise integration with Red Hat. So Ethermint is going pretty well, and it's essentially the clone. It's running Go Ethereum, but on Tendermint consensus, so that you should achieve roughly transaction throughput of like 100 transactions per second, which you can scale horizontally. And we're going to talk about it a bit more because there are testnets coming up, and it's going to be pretty fun. And I've been improving the docs, so if you want to run your own things on Solidity on Ethereum, really check out Ethermint. It's super easy to set up now. Yeah, and if you have questions about that. Okay, cool. Yeah, I might try to get a different microphone for next time. Okay, I'll guess we'll do the introduction from Bucky later.
Maybe try try your microphone. Apparently your microphone's still really echoey.
Default.
Maybe try that weird the one that sounded hollow. It didn't sound. I didn't realize that echo was the problem. So.
All right.
So maybe if it sounds funnier but there's no echo, that's a little bit better. Oh, okay. Apparently, it's fine. Okay, we got Ethan Buckman on the line here. Hey, how you doing?
What up? Hey guys.
Do you want to start with a quick introduction of who you are and what you're working on?
Me?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, hey everyone.
Holy shit, can you use headphones? Do you have headphones?
Yeah. Sorry, let me get them.
Okay, cool. We can see the live chat here. This is great. Sorry, guys, for all this technical difficulty. Okay.
Yeah, so this is only our second live chat, dev chat, so this will get better over time. We're still very new at it.
All right, guys. Hey, sorry about that. Cool. So yeah, I'm Ethan Buckman. I did the dev chat a couple weeks ago, so hopefully many of you were there. Or, I can't really see who's here now. I guess we're doing things in a different way. So I've been working on a whole bunch of things. Most recently has been getting these test nets together and out. And there's been a lot of work on like the command line tool user experience and making sure everything is working. A big part of that has been getting the light client fully integrated. So now in our command line tooling, there's like the server side component where you go and you set up your node, and that's actually like a full node crunching everything. And then there's a client side component that's its own tool that does full light client verification of all the queries, and also has built-in key management and allows you to send transactions. So we've really been trying to polish the UX. It's still a little bit rough around the edges. But we're basically there. We've got these test nets up, and we're just going through the final straw of making sure we like the way the UX feels. So we'll have those ready to go today for sure.
Ethan, maybe you want to explain a little bit more as to the significance of a light client, generally speaking. Like, why are we even embarking on that? Like, what are the benefits of having a light client?
For sure. Yeah. So the whole point of this blockchain space in the first place was that it's like fully accountable and transparent in the sense that anyone can verify what's going on. And the way they do that is with these cryptographic proofs. And Satoshi introduced the idea that there's a more efficient way, so the basic way to set it up is everyone runs everything. They crunch all the transactions and they store all the data on their hard drive, all the transactions, all the state data, and so on. And that's a lot of overhead for someone who just wants to like check a balance or send a transaction, but still have the same security. So the idea is, well, if you use clever data structures, then it's possible to get practically the same security as you would from running a full node, but with a much reduced overhead. And the way that's done is you have to verify some element of the consensus, and then you use Merkle proofs to verify pieces of the state. And so in Bitcoin, you have what's called SPV, Simplified Payment Verification, which is the Bitcoin light client. And the way that works is the light client is expected to verify all the proof of work. So it needs to build this long chain of headers. It doesn't have to process full blocks, but it needs to get all the block headers from the past, verify that there's a chain of them, and then find the one with the longest chain. And then once it has that, then it can verify that transactions occurred within a particular block in history. But it's actually, because of the way Bitcoin is designed, it can't do much more than that. So it can't tell you with cryptographic certainty, or really we should say cryptoeconomic certainty, that some account has or some balance, which yeah. So what Ethereum did was it introduced the idea of a state root or a state tree, which is actually a Merkle tree that is dynamic, that can hold the actual state of the accounts and the balances, which allows you to verify more things than you could in Bitcoin, not just transactions, but also the current state, and do it in a light client fashion, so that this could be a mobile phone or some low-powered device. It doesn't have the capacity to run all the transactions and verify everything. All it has to do is verify the proof of work headers and then check some Merkle proof about the state. But still, because it's using proof of work, it has to check this whole history of headers, which is still tremendous overhead. I mean, obviously it's much better than a full node, but it's still a lot to work with. So in proof of stake land and in Tendermint land, you can be even more efficient than that, because instead of using proof of work, we have this proof of stake mechanism where validators are signing off on blocks, and we only accept a block if more than 2/3 of the voting power signs off on it. So if you're a light client, you don't actually need to go and process all the headers. All you need to do is keep up with the validator set changes, because you're already trusting the validators once you know who they are, right? So when you first connect to the blockchain, you have to authenticate who the current set of validators is by some out-of-band mechanism. It's like when you first download Bitcoin, you need to trust the Genesis block, right? So similar kind of thing here. And then as a light client, because you've chosen to trust this set of validators, you then only have to, you can jump ahead far into the future as long as the validator set hasn't changed. And then all you have to do is check that the validator signed off on the latest state. And so this is basically the Tendermint light client protocol, where the light client is even cheaper than Ethereum, because you don't have to do the proof of work. You don't have to verify the proof of work. All you have to do is keep up with changes to the validator set. And so long as you're doing that, you can jump ahead and skip many headers and just jump to verifying the latest state. And so we've been working on implementing all that as a library. That's the light client library under the Tendermint organization on GitHub. And now that's been integrated into the Basecoin and the Basecli tooling, so that when you connect to our testnet, you will actually be asked to authenticate the hash of the validator set, and then you'll be able to use a light client to securely, from a lighter device, authenticate everything that's happening on the blockchain.
Awesome.
So that's a long-winded explanation, but hopefully that makes sense to people.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you very much for that. Shall we jump into updates of? Well, I guess you've covered some. Well, no. Does one of you want to talk more about testnets in depth?
Sure. I can tell you a little bit about what we're putting up, and we've been talking about it for a few weeks now, really for a month at this point. There's been a lot of little things in the way. There were, various people had their vacation weeks set up. We've had some events we had to deal with, and all kinds of administrative overhead. I don't need to, no excuses, but whatever. So the Basecoin testnets are finally in shape where we should be able to release today, like almost for certain. The nets are up. We're just going combing through the UX one more time to make sure it'll actually work when we give it to you folks. And so basically what we've done is we've set up 2 different test nets. We're calling them Mercury and Hermes. And they're simple test nets. They're base coin test nets, which means they're running a simple multi-asset cryptocurrency. And there's a relay node that we've also set up that is relaying transactions between them. So if you're familiar with the Cosmos network and how it works, basically there's this core primitive called IBC, or inter-blockchain communication, that enables us to authoritatively move state between blockchains. And if you can move state, you can move anything built on the state, including a coin. So we've implemented all that. And so we have these 2 test nets that are live and a relay node that's relaying packets, IBC packets between them. So what you'll be able to do is send coins around both within one of the blockchains and across them. And so polishing the UX so you could do it all from one machine has been a little bit of work, but we're basically there. And yet currently it's all command line tooling. We'll talk about UI stuff, progress a little bit later on. But the way it's currently set up is all the developers on our team have an account in the Genesis block, and they all have different kinds of coins. So, you know, there's lots of assets off the bat. And you'll be able to generate a key using the tools, and then you can post the key in our Slack channel, and we'll send you coins. And then you'll be able to send your coins both on that blockchain and across to the other blockchain from Mercury. So right now, all the accounts are on Mercury. There's no accounts on Hermes. It's empty except for the relay key. And so what we'll do over time is, you know, people will mess around and we'll see how the coins balances increase on Hermes. Now, you know, it's a very simple thing. Like, you know, it's not that interesting. Like, I guess, whatever. For us, it's cool because right? it's really flexing a lot of the pieces in an integrated way. You can run full nodes on it. You can run light clients on it. You can't become a validator yet, and we have no inflation yet. So if we all lose all our keys, then, you know, we'll have to start a new testnet or hard fork it or something. Yeah. So
cool. Oh yeah, maybe on the Ethermint testnet. So the Ethermint testnet will be coming up hopefully next week as well. It won't yet be integrated with the other 2 testnets. So it will literally just be Ethereum, but running on Tendermint consensus. And yeah, then you can start messing around with that, start deploying contracts, whatever you want, whatever you would do to the normal Ethereum network, but much faster. Yeah, and I think the roadmap for the testnets is oh, Jay joined. Hey, Jay. Never mind, he left again. That was quick. Never mind. So the roadmap for the testnets eventually is that we get them with validator set changes so that members from the communities can start running their own full nodes and validator nodes, and then like members of the core team can run their own validator nodes, so that we kind of achieve this sort of decentralized way, even for the testnet, to test out how that exactly works. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about Jepsen updates and what that means for Tendermint consensus.
Cool. So, well, just briefly, I'll say a few words about roadmap and the pieces. We have multiple different software projects that we're developing kind of independently, but all work together to give what will ultimately be the Cosmos Hub. And so the most important one at the heart of that, or one of the most important ones, is Tendermint itself, which is this general purpose consensus engine that hopefully many of you have at least tried out, and certainly many people are building on top of. And so what's really important is that this isn't proof of work, right? Proof of work is like a lazy consensus that's relatively easy to implement. But here we have to keep all these nodes in sync in a very concrete and explicit way using a consensus algorithm. And so Tendermint is being designed to never fork, to never allow there to be more than 2 blocks eligible at the same height. Like Bitcoin is forking all the time, and some of those chains get they're like small little branches that get orphaned off and people forget about them. Tendermint is designed to never do that because all the validators kind of play this game and they stay in sync with each other. And so in the traditional database world, the same thing applies where people are using algorithms like Paxos and Raft to run like their distributed key value stores that provides a consistent and authoritative source of truth to some kind of distributed infrastructure. And so these people are very concerned with the possibility of things becoming inconsistent, i.e. there being a fork, and with intermediate network partitions that might cause the thing to stop being available. And it's very difficult to test these kinds of systems and to get them right. And so there's a developer who goes by Afir, and he built a tool called Jepsen for very extensive network partition testing of real live distributed database protocols. And so most, if not all, of the major open source distributed databases available today have sort of been through the Jepsen ringer. And in many cases, he'll find some kind of liveness bug or some other inconsistency in the semantics, or in certain cases, flat out like inconsistencies in the data, or the databases lose data, and so on. So, anyways, the point is, we're trying to prove that Tendermint is the best and most reliable consensus engine on the planet, and basically we're working towards that. And so we have engaged with Afir to start building out tests for using Jepsen to really flex Tendermint in all these extreme conditions. And so he's already started doing that, and we've seen some early reports, and we have some work to do around like the APIs to make it easier to write clients for this thing. But otherwise it's doing well, and we're working to solve whatever issues we start to find, and we'll hopefully start like a public sort of stream of investigations and experiments and any issues that come up and how we're solving them, and we'll be integrating that into our continuous integration and our testing procedures, so that we can upgrade the consensus and be confident that we haven't broken anything. So what's interesting for him though is that he's never tested a Byzantine fault tolerant system before. So most of the systems he's testing are just testing them against like extreme network conditions and highly concurrent settings, but they all just need to be crash tolerant and function in an asynchronous network. Whereas in Tendermint land, these things need to be Byzantine fault tolerant too. So we're going to be working on some Byzantine behaviors for the Tendermint daemon, so that he can test those out and combine them with various kinds of network partitions to really try to make something bad happen. And if we can get through these Jepsen tests, we'll have quite a bit of confidence in running this thing in a Byzantine fault tolerant asynchronous network in public. So we're super excited about that.
Cool. Should we move on to right? So we're planning to release a roadmap, and so with a roadmap with actually like very public milestones of where we want to go in the next until Q4. So that should be up and coming in like 2 weeks, I guess, something like that, so that it's much easier for the community to follow along, like where we are and where we want to go. Because I think there have been some questions on Slack, especially, and like exactly where we're going and when we're releasing and stuff like that. So we're addressing that. Yeah.
So along those lines, I'll also mention we're going to add a roadmap to every major repository. So they'll sort of be this like hierarchical form of the roadmap. So depending on how much specification or you want. So basically, with every pull request, we make updates to the changelog. We'll constantly update. We will start constantly updating the roadmaps within the individual repos. So if you want that finer grained insight, you can follow it there. We'll continue doing these dev chats every 2 weeks. We'll keep talking about it, and then every month we'll write a summary of what we did that month and how it updates the roadmaps.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, I forget. If you're a community member, if you're interested in running a validator for the testnet, once the validator set changes are implemented, please message any of us on Slack, so we can get a conversation going there. Yeah. Also, generally speaking, you should check out all the new documentation we have. It's getting really nice. Any other updates from you guys?
Well, so the other big thing we've been working on that I don't think we've really talked about yet here is the delegation game, and especially the UI for it. So we're planning on, before the Cosmos Hub launches, we will have a network up that would be a sort of reduced version of it that'll have all the functionality for staking, like bonding your atoms and delegating atoms to validators and choosing validators and this kind of stuff. But it won't have any, like, you won't be able to send coins around and add zones or anything like this. So So this is the test net, or sorry, not a test net. This will be a live network for Atom holders that on which we will play this delegation game, which is, will allow us to choose, the community to choose an initial validator set by delegating their atoms, and the top 100 will form the initial validators. And so we're showing here some screenshots of the UI for that, which is coming along really well. And so it's all open source. You can check it out on github.com/cosmos. There's a whole bunch of repositories devoted to this stuff there.
I'll post the screenshots on the public Slack channel after as well.
Great, thanks. So we'll be consolidating that, and we'll have some updates about how to run that, and we'll have a testnet for it up hopefully soon as well.
Lots of testnets coming up.
Lots of testnets coming.
Right.
So
maybe
let's should we
let's jump into the first questions. Let's start actually from the top.
Sure.
Which chains are functioning in the testnet? Ethermint and so no, Ethermint and the Bitcoin. We don't have a Bitcoin testnet right now, but Ethermint won't right now integrate with the general testnet. That will come, let's say, in the next month.
Right. So to be clear, what we have right now are 3 testnets. 2 of them are base coin and can interoperate with each other, so you can send coins back and forth. The third is Ethermint and is kind of just a standalone, its own Ethereum on Tendermint blockchain that you can use as if it were an Ethereum testnet, just with faster block times and more security, even though it's just a testnet. So we haven't really been working on the Bitcoin integration side. There's enough to do as is, so don't expect a Bitcoin testnet anytime too soon, unless someone wants to step up and work on that. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah. Will ERC20 chains be technologically simpler to add than other chains after Ethermint is functioning? So ERC20 tokens will literally just be able to be implemented on top of Ethermint, and then they will also be tradable across the Cosmos Hub. Yeah, but it's the same process as releasing a normal token on Ethereum right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Jay.
Hey, I just wanted to answer this question. How do you ensure that atoms do not become a medium of exchange? Is this desirable? It's desirable for the atoms to not be a medium of exchange, because if it were a medium of exchange, then it would be liquid enough so that you can easily acquire enough to become the majority of bonded atom holders. So it's not desirable. So we go out of our way to prevent that from happening. So, for example, the inflation rate is adjusted to try to bring the total number of bonded atoms over the total number of atoms to be 2/3. And if it's over 2/3, it'll maybe disincentivize it. I'm not sure. But if it's if less than 2/3 of atom holders have bonded their atoms, then the inflation rate will steadily rise until it does.
Jay, could you explain why? Like, what's the security purpose behind that?
It goes back to what I just said, which is if a token were a medium of exchange, like the dollar is, then I don't think that the total number, the total amount of bonded US dollars might be on the billions, on in a steady state scenario in the future. But that's not, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just for the sake of argument, let's say that happens. then, but there might be a lot more money available because it's a medium of exchange. There might be trillions of dollars in circulation, which means anyone with, Bill Gates could do a double spend attack with his fortune quite easily. Or Jeff Bezos, it would be easier for him today. So that's why we want to prevent the atom from becoming something like a medium of exchange, ensuring that its liquidity is only sufficient enough to have a kind of market so that there can be price discovery, but not liquid enough that it becomes so easy to launch an attack.
And what is the reason why more than 2/3 should be bonded at any given point?
That's just an initial guesstimate.
All right.
I mean, it could have been maybe 1/2, but I think 2/3 is a good starting point, and we'll see how that goes.
So how do validators get incentivized? So maybe Raj, do you want to answer this?
Yeah, I mean, like I guess it's pretty simple. We're going to have like potentially we're talking about fee mechanisms as well as inflation mechanisms that will be applied that will be given to a validator liquid account, which can help maintain the cost of running your server, electricity, etc. And yeah, I mean we're still kind of discussing, exploring what rate should be applied, talking about how governance might be able to change that. So it's an ongoing dialogue, I guess.
Yep.
Any other thoughts from anybody else?
No. Okay, so maybe let's hold on off on the questions. Actually, do we have anything else? Actually, let's take another question. So what's required to run a validator?
Good question.
Aki, you want to jump on that?
Sure. So the number one thing is experience with securing online systems. So what you're going to need to have is a private key that is hot and available for signing. And locking that down is of critical importance, because if someone is able to take control of it, then they can double sign on your behalf, and you lose your deposit, and the delegates who delegated to you will lose significantly as well. So the most important thing is that you're able to secure a private key that is available online. And this is the kind of problem that are faced by the likes of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchanges, because they have some online funds, and they have a cold wallet as well to keep most of it. We don't really have the same problem here. It's not that if someone gets access to the private key, they can steal the money. The money will just be destroyed and is already predetermined where it can be sent to. So it would just be sent back to you. So if someone malicious got in, or if something somehow became corrupted, then you could end up double signing and you'd lose the deposit. So that's the number one concern. And of course, to facilitate that, you really want to be able to use trusted hardware, secure hardware devices. And so we're working in that direction. We've just engaged someone to start looking into getting both transaction signing and validator signing on a ledger device. And we're talking to someone else about another hardware development that could be of great benefit here, but those discussions are earlier. So that's number one. And then another big element is being able to handle like a lot of load, obviously, on the network. We're expecting eventually that there'll be denial of service attacks. And so you kind of need to keep the location of that key and its access to the network isolated and safe. So, one idea is that you sort of surround your main validator node with a bunch of other full nodes that just forward traffic to it. And it's going to be a little bit of cat and mouse game, as it always sort of is in dealing with denial of service attacks, to protect that node and keep it available and online. Over time, we'll probably start to see folks replicating their key in multiple places so that if the network goes down in one place where the key is, they'll be able to sign it from another location as well. But that's very dangerous, of course, because of the double signing situation. So, unless you're running a secure consensus algorithm across those things, which will introduce latency but enable you to tolerate this, you won't be able to do it securely. So there's still a lot of pieces to build out. We're starting with the simplest thing, and so the most important thing is that you have experience securing a server and keeping it online and available. And we'll work on the hardware and the other architectural aspects of facilitating that as we go. And we're working on documents to sort of flesh out the details of what that looks like. And we hope to have a few sort of suggestive overall architecture setups for running a validator, so that ideally we don't have everyone just doing the same thing.
Yeah. So to stress that, there won't be like a blueprint for you to run a validator node, because that would be a huge point of failure in the system.
Yeah. So I mean, one thing that we've been discussing previously is having a series of possible combinations as to security precautions that certain validators might want to take, and then hopefully they'll be dynamic enough that people can mix and match and invent their own ones, etc. Another important kind of facet, like those what Ethan was talking about, were the technical requirements. I guess like the technical competency required to run a validator node, which is absolutely essential. Additionally, there's going to be a limited set of validator nodes available within our proof of stake system. So half of being able to run a validator node is, I guess, to get enough atoms to be in that staking pool, right? So, in the set of validators. One thing we're talking about, I think it was 100, maybe 100 validators who have the most coins either delegated to them or in their own wallets. So part of being able to prove your technical proficiency hopefully will allow certain people who are staking their coins to gravitate towards your validator node.
Cool.
In the actual Cosmos network.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, if anyone has any experience with using the Estonian EID to sign transactions, hit me up. I'm working on this integration as well. Because one of the problems with validators is that you kind of need to prove who you are, right? So currently you're working on things like that you can link your validator node to Keybase account and prove it that way. But yeah, so that's where it's coming from.
Right. So, and that's all being built into the delegation game UI. So, I was giving mostly technical requirements earlier, and then Rigel mentioned, well, there's economic requirements as well, which is that you have enough atoms to stake that you're in the top 100. You're going to need some atoms to become a possible validator. We toyed with the idea of allowing people to have none, but that's not a good idea. So you'll have to have some atoms, some minimum amount at least, and then people can delegate to you. If you have enough, if you have 1% of the atom supply and you stake all of them, you're basically guaranteed a spot as a validator. But if you don't, and you put up some smaller amount and you provide like social proof that you're a trusted entity who has experience doing this kind of thing, and you get folks to delegate to you, then you can still be eligible for a higher spot. So part of the delegation game UI and the candidacy and voting process that we're building out here sort of integrates, like Adrian was saying, having a Keybase ID and checking that, and cryptographically verifying people's statements and that they are who they say they are across social media and stuff like this.
Yeah. No, there won't be another fundraiser coming up. And yeah, our fundraiser was in March.
Well, early April.
Oh wait, yeah, never mind. All right, cool. Maybe let's talk about briefly what's currently happening. So, where are we opening offices? Where can you come and hang out with us if you want to? Maybe Jay can actually talk about that.
Hey, yeah, was that a question?
So just generally, so what's happening on the organizational side? So are we opening offices? Where are those offices located? Where are we planning to expand to?
So we've got hubs in Canada, San Francisco, Berlin. We have offices in New York, and we'll soon in China too.
Cool.
So it depends on where you're at.
Oh, by the way, the one in Canada is in Toronto.
Yeah, Canada and China
Yeah.
are some of the largest geographical regions on the planet.
Yeah,
And
Toronto, right?
Toronto and Shanghai.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And maybe something in
What's
Shenzhen,
that?
if I remember correctly.
Yeah. What's that place called in Toronto? Block Geeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're looking to move in there. And in Berlin, we're looking to open a co-working space for blockchain-related startups. So if you want to move into Berlin with us later in the year, that may be possible.
Yeah.
If you have a small team.
Okay, yeah, so how many people are we at the moment? Because the team has been growing quite a bit.
I think we're about to bring on like 6 people this month, and some of them have officially joined by now. Some of them are still engaging. So I could talk briefly about who's on the team, what they're working on, and what we're bringing on.
Yeah, that's a pretty good idea.
Okay, so the sort of core, of course, there's me and Jay. We've been working on this for a couple of years together. Late 2016, early 2017, we brought on Anton Kaliev. He's Melekis. I actually don't know how to pronounce his alias. And Ethan Fry. And they've been helping us a lot on sort of the core pieces of Tendermint and Basecoin. Anton's been doing a lot of the work on just improving like the underlying code and the libraries that we're using. He did this great overhaul of our logger system. He implemented the transaction indexing for Tendermint and stuff like that. While Fry has really been focusing on sort of the user experience and the APIs and being able to build apps in kind of the same way that you might build a web app, and trying to make Tendermint like a really easy, solid platform for building applications on top of. And he's been doing a great job and really pushing the light client forward. And I haven't seen any other blockchain projects that really put the light client right up at the start. It's always seems like it's kind of an afterthought. So we're really happy that that's been a priority for us, and that it's working and you can start using it. So that's sort of like the real the core pieces of like the low level Tendermint and Basecoin side of things. Then on the UI and front end stuff, there's Peng, who's in Malaysia, and he's our CDO. He's been working with us for a couple of years too. He's basically been doing all the website stuff, but is also a great coder as well. So it's kind of one of these unicorn types, and he's also been working on some UI stuff that we haven't released that was sort of kept in the back burner that still needs some work. And more recently, he's been doing the work on the delegation game and the UIs around there. And Matt Bell, who's been in the Bitcoin space for a while and has built some really popular JavaScript libraries there, joined us in early 2017, and he's been working on a lot of the UI stuff as well with Peng. So he's been developing some UIs for the Basecoin, like little Electron apps, and him and Peng really made the whole fundraiser experience happen. They did a really great job on pulling together all the JavaScript for that. And so now that they're working on the delegation stuff and all the UI components. We also just brought on another developer, Judd Capel, who's also a great JavaScript developer, to help out on that front. So he's just starting this week. So as far as the rest of the team, before people we brought on this month, we also have Rigel, who's on the call with us here, and Adrian, and they joined. Rigel joined in basically right at the beginning of 2017. Adrian just a couple months ago. Rigel's been working on a variety of things, adding a lot of tests where they were missing, and also kind of just cleaning up client libraries all over the place. And most recently, he's been working on an internal invoicing and expenses application called Trackometron. and that's built as a on top of Basecoin with plugins. So that's really forcing us to like use our own framework to build real applications that we're actually going to use. And we've sort of uncovered a lot of things and refactored a lot of things as a result of that. So that's been a great experience. Then Adrian's been working on Ethermint, of course, and really getting that up to speed and getting the testnet out and making it work. And he published a blog post recently on how to use it with the Go Ethereum tooling. Yeah, that's been really good. We have Paul Homer, who's been working with us on the database side of things, adding support for like historic queries. And we also have a secret project that I'm not going to say anything more about, but you can try to guess what it is, and he's been helping out a little bit with that as well. Who am I forgetting? Greg. Oh, Greg's their DevOps guy. He joined like a month ago, and he's just been crushing it. And thank God for him. Otherwise, getting these test nets up would be a lot more difficult.
Brian.
So,
Brian, did you mention Brian?
Yeah, I mentioned Brian.
Yeah.
Brian.
So that's it for devs. Yeah, I wanted to finish up devs. I wanted to talk a little bit about the developers that are coming on right now. I have a short list here. Just 1 second. So Doug just joined us. We're bringing on another DevOps person in New York. Her name's Lori, and she's going to help us really polish up our whole release pipeline and clean up the way we deliver and distribute binaries and help us keep everything in sync, because we've had some issues sort of coordinating across all our repositories and our website and stuff like this. And so I also mentioned we've engaged an individual called William. He's working with us part-time. He's in Berlin, but he's going to help us start doing the integrations with the Ledger Nanos so that we can actually do transaction signing and validator signing there. So that's on the developer side. On the non-developer side, we have Brian Crane, who's been with us for like 6 months or something like this now, maybe a little longer. And he's in Berlin. Of course, you may know him as one of the hosts of the Epicenter podcast. I worked with him at Monax Industries for a while, so he's handling like a lot of our operational stuff. And and then on the strategy side, we also have Jim Yang, who is basically a serial entrepreneur. He's had some successes in the past selling a company to Red Hat, and is just really excited about the blockchain space and about what we're working on. He's been helping us in strategy meetings and partnerships, and setting up the Hack Atom, doing all that stuff, and really building out the brand and figuring out how we're going to continue to make Cosmos the best blockchain we can make it. And then of course there's Hugh Rooney, who is in Southern Ontario, lives not too far from me. He's I guess a veteran business process consultant. So he's been going around for years helping large companies digitize their business processes. So he has a lot of unique insights into the internal processes of these companies and what it takes to digitize them, and has been just totally enraptured by the blockchain space and what it will be able to do for companies, and now sort of understanding Cosmos and what the potential is there, and just helping us on the strategy for that and on reaching out and connecting to researchers and other institutions about working on and building out our technologies.
Also, by the way, if you want to host your own like meetup or something, please approach us as well. We're happy to like sponsor food and stickers or whatever. And if you have enough people, also like fly one of us out to give a talk or something. So we're very much available. So like if you have any need from us to like be at a meetup, let us know. Right. Also, there was another question about Red Hat, I think.
Oh yeah. You want to talk about that, Adrian? What's going on there?
So Ethan talked about Jim, right? So he worked for Red Hat for like a year. So me, Jim, and Greg are working on getting a Red Hat integration up and running, so that you can run all our tooling on top of Red Hat. which will especially be interesting for validators that, like for more of an institutional set of validators. And we should have some news there in like the next 2 weeks, maybe. Yeah, that's pretty much it about Red Hat.
There's a few more new questions, guys.
There's more questions. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, we got. Okay. Will the block generation time be configurable in Tendermint? 1 block per second could turn out to be a bit ambitious for some use cases. Example, shipping.
Yeah, it already is configurable. What we really ought to do is adapt the consensus algorithm so that it won't make blocks if there's no transactions. And we've thought about a little bit how that can be done. It's a non-trivial change. It's something that's worth doing at some point, but it's not the most urgent priority because disk space is cheap. In the meantime, you can configure the block time to be 3 seconds, 5 seconds. There are a few ways to tweak that. But at some point, hopefully we can get to it later this year, more likely next year. I don't know. It's just not the most urgent issue, but it's definitely something on our mind that we want to address. Is this, don't make empty blocks issue.
So the reason why it's not that urgent, right, is it's not necessarily needed for the Cosmos Hub, and that's really our main priority right now.
Right, and we can start, the early days of the hub. We can start with a block time a little higher. And work towards something lower as we gain confidence.
Yeah. Do we have any plans for setting up a partnership with Archain? Jay, Bucky? I don't know.
Nothing explicit or formal. I've spoken with Greg quite a bit. I'm a fan of what he's doing. He's spent some time teaching me about pi calculus and row calculus and these things, and we've talked about various issues in the blockchain design space. The great thing about Tendermint is that we can run applications from any programming language. So anything someone goes and builds, all of these cool new virtual machine designs, we can adapt them to run on Tendermint just like we did with Ethereum and Ethermint. So whether or not we announce some kind of formal partnership, we are certainly interested in having the Archain virtual machine and smart contract engine available to run on Tendermint and possibly on Cosmos down the road. So, again, it's not something that our internal team can really prioritize right now because we have other deliverables, but it's definitely something we're interested in, whether it's the Archain virtual machine, the OCaml virtual machine. There's a smart contract engine in Haskell written by the guys at Kadena. I think it's called Juno. And there's probably going to be others. And one of the big motivating design decisions behind Tendermint was that it'd be able to support these, whatever programming language they're written in. So we're excited for that to happen.
Yep. So maybe anything from you guys? I only have like one more thing to talk about, which is the peg zone for Ethermint, or between Ethereum and the Cosmos Hub. But besides that, I'm out of topics to talk about, essentially. So anything from you three?
Yeah, one thing is we are considering renaming Basecoin. So if you want to put some input in that, check out the issue in the Basecoin GitHub repository.
Can we make that a bounty like that? If somebody comes up with a really good name,
yeah, let's do that. So we have to work on. We have a whole bunch of bounties. There's going to be a bounty on this testnet, by the way. There's going to be a private key that you'll be able to find. I'm not going to tell you how to find it, but if you investigate and think about what we've got, you'll be able to find it and steal coins. It'll be a bit of work because the UX is rough around stealing the coins from this particular key, but yeah, there'll be a bounty for that.
Awesome.
Oh, God.
There are a couple more questions here. One of the questions here. Can you clarify what the reserve pool is? Do you really think it's a good idea to have validators be able to decide on fund allocation?
Yeah, this one's a little bit contested. Jay, you want to talk about this?
Okay, it goes like this. When you're issuing a token, I think it's good for you to have a reserve. And it's kind of weird because these are pegged reserves. So if our chain fails, then the reserves wouldn't be worth anything, theoretically. But I think in the future we'll be able to fix that. So a chain could really have a reserve, and even if the chain fails, the reserve is still there because they're enforced by the home blockchain of each of those tokens, or their origin, anyways, where they came from into the hub. So I think it can be, in the long run, like an actual stable thing to have some reserve coins. And the question is, what's the point? So I think it serves a few purposes. One is it anchors the value of the atom. Right? So initially the reserve will be 0. So the atom, it's not getting any benefit from the reserve pool. But if we choose to keep this policy, over time, the reserve pool will slowly fill up because of a tax on every transaction. A small percent will go to the reserve pool. And we will have tokens that, A, help anchor the price of the token, and B, is it can be used for funding development. And so it's a pretty non-contested, I think, a less contestable way than inflating the token supply is when you're using funds from your own piggy bank. So that's why it's there.
Nice, thanks. So Chris is asking whether will there be a central Cosmos hub, or will each coin need to run their own? Anyone wants to answer that?
Okay. We will try to make it so that there's only one hub that's called the Cosmos Hub. If we do perfectly at our task, maybe that will not be contested. But or it might fork, and there might be 2 Cosmos hubs, and then eventually we'll fine-tune names for them. But there's only meant to be one Cosmos hub. It's not really meant to be central, though, because it's going to end up looking like a graph of blockchains, and there won't be a center, and it's not clear whether it will even be any kind of gravitational center. But if we do well, and if our atom holders do well in promoting it and building it, then it could work. But it's not meant to be, by design, a center.
Maybe also more from how it will work. So we will have zones like the Ethermint zone and the Basecoin zone, and they will connect to the Cosmos Hub to be able to send transactions between Basecoin and Ethermint through the Cosmos Hub. But theoretically, you could form another Cosmos Hub and then send the transactions through it. The only important thing is that the Cosmos Hub is a chain that tracks the state of the other zones. Yeah. Right. So yeah, the next question is, why can Tendermint scale transactions while other blockchains can't?
This is a great one. So first of all, there's 2 kinds of way of scaling. There's the vertical scaling and horizontal scaling, roughly speaking. And the Bitcoin debate is really on two ways to do this, right? Half of them want to just increase the block size. That's vertical scaling, just increase raw capacity, but that's going to have all kinds of downstream effects because it's still an unscalable design. Others want to be able to roll out things like the Lightning Network, which provides a form of vertical scalability, but really changes what you're doing. You're not making on-chain transactions, and there's censorship issues and so on. So the approach we've taken is to use sharding, which is effectively to be able to run many different state machines in parallel with one another, and to only sync between them when you need to. So the key problem with all these blockchains is that they're singletons, right? There's a total order on all transactions, and in probably the vast majority of cases, it's not actually necessary. You know, your transactions over in on some little thing in Toronto don't necessarily need to be totally ordered with respect to someone's local transactions in Shanghai, for instance, right? For a more concrete, like, cryptocurrency example, your transactions on one dApp don't necessarily need to be totally ordered with respect to transactions on another dApp, or it could be sets of dApps and so on. So the approach we've taken with Tendermint is to have multiple independent Tendermint blockchains running in parallel, right? And it's like, okay, well, what good is that? You have Ethereum Classic. If you have a million of those, you don't really get scalability. What you have is many independent, unscalable things, and that's exactly right. And so what makes our proposition different from all that is that there's a way to connect the chains so that they can sync up when necessary. So that you provide a kind of partial ordering across all of them, because there are these points in time where they do this little handshake with each other. And that handshake is effectively just the light client protocol we were talking about earlier. So the respective blockchains can all they have to do is be light clients of one another. They don't have to totally order all their transactions with respect to one another. But by implementing the light client logic on chain, then when necessary, they can authenticate, they can do this handshake and sort of move data between themselves and provide that sort of partial ordering at whatever frequency it's needed. So the idea is that the state machines can run in parallel, and then, you know, periodically they're synced up whenever someone needs to communicate between them. And that handshaking, that communication is done using the light client protocols that we were talking about earlier. And the really nice thing about Tendermint compared to proof of work and other complex proof of stake kind of schemes is that it provides a very clear, very simple, very strong light client guarantee. And it's an easy light client system to implement and to reason about. And so that's both, you know, that both benefits users who want to use the system from a mobile device, but it also benefits the interoperability between blockchains. So the thing that makes the blockchains interoperable is also being used to facilitate scale. And so we can run many different Ethereum state machines in parallel and still have them be able to communicate with each other when they need to. That communication might be over greater latency than if it's happening on chain, but at least you can have, you know, low latency and higher capacity throughput on each individual chain, and then let them sync with each other when they need to. So that's the basic idea.
Indeed. Right. Oh yeah. Okay, we're like at an hour now, so let's do a quick wrap up. Just with 5-minute small announcements that we have. So we are organizing a Cosmos conference at the end of this year. So keep your eyes open. Keep your ears open for that. Currently, we have the Cosmos Hackathon. So if you want more information on that, please join our Slack channel. There's some awesome prizes to win. And yeah, it's always like, if you're a good Solidity developer or Go developer or even Rust developer, send us a message. We're looking for people. Oh yeah, and the next dev chat will be in 2 weeks on Saturday, the 8th of July. Time to be confirmed, yet to be confirmed.
So I just want to quickly address a few of these. So keep in mind, our sharding is not theoretical. We've actually implemented it, and you'll be able to try it out today. You know, we don't have the full system yet of a hub and zones, but we do have parallel blockchains that can intercommunicate. We've spoken with the Ethereum team, you know, many times in the past, and continue to talk to them about proof of stake and sharding and so on. And their concern, which is somewhat legitimate, is with how do you change the validator sets across these different shards. And so, you know, they want to do this thing where shards are transparent, so the user doesn't really have an idea of what shard it's on, and that the sharding is kind of just managed automatically by the protocol. It's some kind of like load balancer, and it also, you know, provides routing and all this kind of stuff. At least as far as I understand. And while it's a, you know, very ambitious and amicable endeavor, it's a lot more work and it's a lot more complicated. And we have primitives that we believe are useful, out of which you can build robust systems. Maybe they won't stand up quite to the extreme constraints that at least Vlad is chasing down. I think Vitalik is willing to tolerate, you know, somewhat weaker guarantees, at least for the sake of actually being able to build something and deploy it in a reasonable amount of time. But that said, I think there will be a lot of opportunity for synergy. And one other point I wanted to make that sort of ties into this and ties into the decentralization aspect is I'm becoming increasingly convinced that to scale these things properly and for them to actually be useful and not just kind of like, you know, stuck in the crypto ghetto, as I put it, is that they'll need to be tied to real local communities, and that we can sort of start to think about blockchain scaling as similar to the problem of like the reemergence of empowered municipalities and empowered communities and self-sufficient communities, and that there's some interplay between those, that stronger, more coordinated local communities running their own blockchains and sort of building up a network of cities or a network of communities where each one is kind of responsible for the local activity, and then they connect together over the standard real world trusted, you know, legally enforced trade agreements and so on. So that was kind of a mouthful, and there's still a lot of like work to actually think through how this will work out. But I think that actually grounding these zones or these shards in local activity is going to be really important to actually scaling this thing globally. And it also helps tremendously, like the huge challenges with issues around civil attacks, right? And how do you identify people over the internet? If you can rely more on local accountability, it makes a huge difference. So I think there's a really big design space there that people in sort of public crypto economics have tended to resist, because maybe it could be seen as antithetical, but to like the underlying crypto economic, you know, philosophies. But I don't really think that's true. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, we should talk about that further some other time. But that's what I have to say about that.
Yes. And I think with this we can conclude our second developer chat. Anyone else want to talk about something else? Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, send us, I guess, like send us messages on the public Slack channel. I know that not every single question got answered here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we distributed everywhere in terms of the team, so someone should be able to answer at any point in time.
Yeah, a quick, easy one is when the initial Cosmos tokens will be exchangeable. I mean, we have to launch Cosmos, and I think we're looking at the new at the end of this year to launch the hub. So.
Q4.
Q4, yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Nice.
Great. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining. Tune in 2 weeks and tell all your friends about this.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye bye.